What's going on, y'all? Machiavelli Mills TV. So I just had a really dope Uber experience, right? So I get into the Uber. This just happened to me. I get into the Uber, and then I see on the GPS that the language is in Russian, right? And so I asked the guy. I said, "Is that Russian?" He's a young guy, right? Very young. And he says, "Yes." He said, "Yes, it is." And so I said, "Paruski," right? Paruski is Russian in Russian. He turns around, y'all, gives me the biggest grin you could ever think of and says, "You speak Russian?" Right? He said, "You speak Russian?" And I say, "Yeah." I didn't say yeah. I say, I know a little bit of it. And for those who don't know, on my channel, I said this in a few videos before when I was talking about how black people don't have to code switch in order to be professional. I explained that from kindergarten to third grade, I was learning Russian because I was at a Chicago public school in the hood of Chicago. That was a magnet school. It was a public school, but it was a magnet school, meaning that we had to test to get into the school. The curriculum was accelerated. It was an outstanding curriculum, and it was Turner-Jew Language Academy. It was a language academy, and we had to learn a language from kindergarten through eighth grade because in Chicago we don't have middle schools like that. We don't really have middle schools. We got kindergarten all the way through eighth grade. We all in there together at the same time, right? And so from kindergarten to third grade, Russian was the language that I took until they took it out of the curriculum my fourth grade year, right? And so Ms. Vilinovich, she was teaching us Russian. And so I remember a nice amount of it because we were taking this class every single day and we were learning a lot. And so after I tell them I learned from kindergarten to third grade, I tell him "Здравствуйте," right? Which means hello. And he says it back to me and he's smiling, right? And then I'm telling him certain things that I can remember in the language. I'm counting because I remember as a kid counting in Russian. Один, два, три, четыре, пять, шесть, семь, восемь, девять, десять, одиннадцать, девятнадцать, тринадцать, четырнадцать, пятнадцать. Like going through all them different numbers and all of that. I remember krasny. I'm saying colors. Korичневый, Sieri. I'm speaking certain languages. I mean, certain colors. I'm saying certain things to him, and he's just like smiling. And he tells me, I've been in him. He's been in America since 2021. He's been in Chicago, and he's on a student visa. And he says that this is the first time that someone has spoken my language to me since I've been here. Right? He said I don't run into Russian people like that. Right? And so he says the first time somebody is speaking my language to me, and he's smiling. Right? And he's just like, wow. He's asking me, have you been to Russia? I said no, I haven't. And I explained again I explained, basically telling him, I went to the elementary school that taught the language and all of that. And, he's telling me, you speak very well. You say the language very well. He said, you pronounce it very well. And then, pronounce everything like very correctly. He said, man, or nearly correctly, right? He says, you should go to visit Russia. And I say, yeah, I should. I'm thinking about it, right? And we have a whole conversation. He's explaining to me that he's here on school. And he's talking about how healthcare and things are free in Russia, and how everything in America has insurance and takes insurance and all of that. And he was talking about how he's visited New York, he's visited Detroit, and all that. And what do we know? He wanted to go to Detroit because his favorite rapper is Eminem. And I told y'all, people across the world love Eminem, especially international white folks, because they found there's somebody they can relate to that looks like them in a certain aspect, right? But anyway, he's just talking to me about his experience here in America and in Chicago, and it was a really dope conversation. But he opened up first. I thought he was just gonna drive. He was just driving, and then he just starts telling me about everything. And he says, "Man, we having a great conversation." I'm telling him, he was basically telling me he'd been in some rough areas in Chicago doing the Uber Eats, and Uber Eats driving. And he said, I really didn't know that we were in these rough areas, and or certain areas till I get over there and I can kind of see how it looks a little like rough. And he say, there's a lot of black folks looking at them like, what y'all doing over here? Right? He said nobody was messing with them at all, but they looking like, what y'all doing over here? He said that's when we knew, like, oh, we must be in an area that is not commonly visited by white people, right? And he's just telling me just a whole lot of just how he's enjoying it and how he likes it here a lot and this beautiful city, et cetera, et cetera. And we having a really dope conversation. But I just remember how the man telling me, young man, he starts telling me his name is Alexander, but in Russian, Sasha is the nickname for Alexander. That's the nickname that they call people Alexander. If your name is Alexander, your nickname is Sasha in Russian, in Russia, right? And so, we having a great conversation, but he opened up because he saw that I was speaking to him in his language. And I'm telling y'all, when you speak to a man in his language, it makes him feel good. It makes him feel at home because he can't go back to, I think he told me he's on like the J1 visa. I don't know how that works, but he can't go home and visit, right? He got to finish out the schooling or whatever before that happens. And so, that kind of reminded him of home. Not me, I'm a black man, right? But just anybody just speaking some of the language to him, just reminding him of home. And, it made him feel good. Because sometimes, and I told him, like, you're very brave to do that. I couldn't come to another country. I don't think I could do it. Not be visiting home for years and years and years. He's been here for a while. He hasn't been home since 2021, right? Since he left. And I'm like, it's very brave to be doing that, man. You were out here Uber driving and navigating through the city, going to school. That's tough. And he like, yeah, I said, how do your parents, feel about that? He said, they're happy that I'm going somewhere and I'm, trying to make something of myself and, possibly here to get better opportunity, money, etc. Because he's in IT, doing school for IT type stuff, right? And, but yeah, man, you speak to a man in his language and he'll see him let down his guards. He become extremely, what's the word I'm looking for? Not approachable, but yeah, man, he just started, the conversation was just great. He was just happy to speak to me and he was just super like ecstatic and really dope vibes. When you talk to a person in their language, they get comfortable. They get more talkative. They become embracive, and he wasn't rude at all. Even when he didn't know that I spoke a little bit of Russian, he was still nice. But he just, started opening up and just talking. And I'm like, man, it really makes people feel comfortable. It makes them feel at ease. It makes them feel welcomed. It makes them feel like, hey, man, I feel really good. And that was just a dope thing. That's why, I used to watch Lao Shu, Moses. He rest in peace. I believe he must have died, I think, man, some years back, right? He died not too long ago. But watching him speak to other people in their language, it was always wholesome to watch because they would be so ecstatic and clapping and smiling and jumping up and down because sometimes they haven't interacted with anybody that spoke their language since they left their home country. So to have this interaction was dope, and I wish I could have recorded it on YouTube, but I didn't want to put the brother on the camera out the blue, but should have asked him. Peace.